sponsors for making today possible. But now we're going to move on to the main event, which you're all excited for. We've been working with Tom Burton for a number of weeks and months. We're really excited to hear what he has to say. For any of you who haven't seen what his work is with Grypmat, it's a really exciting opportunity to find out about his journey as an entrepreneur, an inventor, and as a human being. So give it up for Tom Burton.
What's up, guys? So yeah, Columbus Web Group again. Whose first Columbus Web Group is this? This is my first. Sweet, sweet. Here we go. Don't break boundaries, eliminate them. Kevin came up with this title. I hated it, so I decided I wanted to change it. Change it to Don't Break Barriers, Eliminate Them. So yeah, for those note takers, note that in real quick. Hello, I'm Tom. So I was a F-16 mechanic for 9 years in the Air Force. So I would work on fighter jets. Specifically, I would work on the machine gun of the fighter jet. This is me crashing a wedding and dancing with a bride in bowling shoes. I'm kidding, that's my cousin's wife. I have crashed weddings before and danced with a bride, but this is not that picture. Kevin found this picture of me as I don't know if you can see it on my shirt, it says Bugle Boy. I'm 13 years old. This is my fat stage. Can't really see, but there's a big scar on my shin. I think it's from, I fell on a escalator, which is not fun to do. So this is a picture of me at a trade show called NBAA. This is one of the first trade shows that I attended at. You can't really tell, but so the table is actually covered with a black bed sheet, and this curved display, the white material, I actually found in a dumpster at the University of Toledo, because that's where I was going to college, and it's kind of hard to see, but the black frame was made from a door that I pulled off in the garage, and I cut up, and I made the frame with it and painted it black. So the picture is very zoomed in on the booth. Very zoomed in on the booth. Let me go back. So you can't really tell how crappy our booth is, but the thing is, NBAA, anyone who does business in the aviation industry, they are there. So like the owners and the CEOs of like American Airlines, they are there. So it was actually pretty nerve-wracking because we were very underprepared. But the thing was, this picture actually got put into an article that got the attention of NASA, and that's how NASA started buying the Grypmats. And then also, this crappy display that I made from the dumpster and the door in the garage got the attention of Aviol, which is a company owned by Boeing. That's the biggest distributor in the aviation industry. So it worked out. So yeah, the Grypmat is a flexible, non-slip tool tray. It gives you a safe place to set your tools. So you can see on the nose of the aircraft, grips the surface and also grips your tools. So yeah, this is, my mom goes to a lot of trade shows with us. Kevin said people like stories with moms in them. I think Kevin likes my mom. So I think that's why he picked this picture. Does anyone know who this is in this picture? Yeah, we got a racing nerd right here. So basically, yeah. So it's just a famous race car driver who's retired now. At the trade shows, my mom finds a way to find any famous person and get a picture with them. So yeah, the past 24 months with Grypmat has been growing very well. We were on the cover of Time magazine, Best Invention of the Year, and I got Forbes 30 Under 30. So yeah. So one thing, I actually got rejected from Columbus 40 Under 40. So if anybody knows anybody in that, let me know. So yeah, so we got 3 sections. I forgot to start my watch. So finding your path, deciding what direction you want to go into, identifying your barriers that's going to be along your path, and then how to eliminate those barriers. So, finding your path. So, a quick story I'm going to tell you guys. My cousin Ned, he was going to Ohio State here, and he was going to go visit his sister Sandy in New Mexico. And he goes out to New Mexico, and he's like, I want to catch a rattlesnake. And his sister's like, that's stupid, like any sister would say. And she goes, why do you want to catch a rattlesnake? You could get bitten, you could get hurt, you could die. And he goes, well, I'll make a really cool story. He wanted to catch a rattlesnake and make a belt out of it. So he's looking high and low, day and night, for this rattlesnake, and can't find it. Convinces one of Sandy's friends to use his Jeep so they could drive around further into the desert to look for a rattlesnake. Sandy's neighbor gets wind of this, and he finds a dead rattlesnake alongside the road, and he throws him back in the truck, goes home, coils it up next to the front door, and when Ned and Sandy come home, Sandy walks right by it, doesn't even see it. Ned sees it, and he's freaking out that there's a rattlesnake. And so he's screaming for Sandy to come back. They see it. They're about to call 911. They don't know what to do. And the neighbor comes out, and he's like, joke's on you. It's, relax. It's a dead rattlesnake. Thing is, Ned found his rattlesnake. He had had something he really wanted to do, even though his family members did not want him to do it. He still got his rattlesnake. So, let me rewind for a little bit. So Ned goes back to OSU. 4 months later, finds out that he has stage 4 cancer. Six months later, he passes away. So part of your path, I think it's really important to have something that's very personal to you that's going to make you want to keep going through your path. So for me, the way I look at it is you may not get another summer. You may not get another summer to go chase your rattlesnake. It might be something really stupid that your family might not understand. Maybe it's being a chef, maybe it's being a musician, maybe it's being an inventor. So the next step of finding your path is, I think it's very necessary to reflect on your personal experience. Me growing up, I worked with tools a lot. Me as a F-16 mechanic, I was working with tools every day, and I was tired of my tools sliding off the aircraft. Me being in the military, something that would make me very mad was the constant debate of, do we raise the budget or do we lower the budget, where no one's asking the question, why aren't we making the military more efficient? I always wanted to make it way more efficient. So with my personal experience of knowing how to use tools and a very good, kind of going into the next step of what is your unique ability? My unique ability is to create hardware products. 3D, being able to use CAD, 3D imagery, to design those products and then bring them into existence. I want to make the military more efficient, and I do that through hardware products. It could be, if you have a similar passion, maybe it's through doing a software, or maybe doing another type of platform that's going to make it more efficient. So, all right, this is the fourth part of finding your path. Is anyone in here in a wheelchair? No one? Okay, great. So everyone, I need you to stand up. Okay, so I want you guys put your arms in the air. I want you to reach as high as you can. Okay, great. Now put your arms down. Okay, put your arms up again. Now I want you guys to reach higher than you did before. Whatever you got to do it. Okay, all right, put your arms down. Did anyone, you guys can sit. Did anyone reach higher? There we go, I like that. Did anyone reach higher the second time? Okay, what was the instructions the first time? Reach as high as you can. Why didn't you guys do that the first time? So, Kind of the attitude that I have with Grypmat is I want to reach as high as I can every single time. So, quick story that reflects on this. The first time I ever sold the Grypmat was at this show called Oshkosh in Wisconsin. It's the world's biggest air show. This guy's heard of it. So, what happened was I filled up a trailer and a truck full of Grypmats. There's 600 Grypmats. It was to the point I couldn't even see out of the window, of the passenger side window, because I had so much crap in the truck. And I go to Wisconsin, and I got 600 Grypmats, and I was like, I've been working on this for like 3 years, and I'm like excited to sell it. And the first day, I sell 13. And I remember thinking, shit, this is not going to work as well as I thought it would. And honestly, I was thinking, I really hope by the end of the show, I can like just see out the passenger side window to make it easier driving. And so the thing is, the first day, I remember feeling pretty defeated. And I remember thinking, like, I'm going to, like, there's 7 days of this show. I'm going to do everything I possibly can every single day to make this happen. There was a point where there was always after parties, and I would go to an after party where I didn't know anyone or know the company, and I would just clear off a table and I would just set up Grypmats and try to sell at someone's after party. So you want to talk about getting out of your comfort zone. Like, you're going to a party that you don't know anyone, then you're asking these people you don't know for money. So the thing is, it really started to build, and I would get people to come by the booth, and they would say, "Hey, were you at that one after party?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "I actually don't know the name of the after party. I just saw a lot of people there, and I just walked in." He's like, "Yeah, well, that company is called Global Parts." What happened was sales started to build, and I remember the last day, it was just me at the booth. And I remember before the last day, a lot of people would come up to me and say, they would say, last day, the air show's not going on, so there's going to be very low traffic. You probably won't really sell anything if you're lucky. And I remember being in the car, going on the way to the trade show, and yelling in the car, "I will sell 100 Grypmats," over and over again. And by the end of the day, I was counting how many I sold, and I sold 101. And I remember, thank you. I remember when I just figured out how many I sold, a guy from across the hall, he came up to me and he said, "Hey, I normally sell stuff to the auto industry, and I think this would be a really good fit for the auto industry. If you're okay with it, I would like to buy everything else that you have and be one of your distributors." And I was like, "Hell yeah, let's do it." So it was like a really good feeling leaving that trade show with nothing. Originally I was hoping just to see out the passenger window. So the way I feel is that, the difference between the first time you stood up and the second time, you were a little bit taller, where I feel like every single day I made that little bit of difference, and that's what had a ripple effect for me to sell out. So another thing with this is that I feel like, when you do, a lot of times when you do something, like I'm going to this trade show and, everything's not working out perfectly, it's very easy for you to sit there and think what the worst case scenario is. What's the worst case scenario? We lose money on this trade show. You waste a bunch of time and effort on this event, where I think a lot of times that's the first thing that we do is think of the worst case scenario, and I think when you do that, you owe it to yourself to consider the best case scenario. So the best case scenario right now is we sell out completely and then strive for that. So basically the 4 steps of this part is make it personal. Maybe that is a family member, a friend that's passed away. Maybe it's you grew up poor, or you came from a different country that doesn't have the same privileges, and you want to give back to those people. Something that makes you mad. Is it inequality? Is it world hunger? Maybe it's the way I feel about this part of what makes you mad. If you have something that's reflective off of your experience, you're going to be zooming into a situation that not a lot of people will understand or know. Probably no one in here knows the struggle of when you do drop a plane when you're working on an F-16. You got to walk 10 feet, and then you got to go down a ladder, and then you got to walk another 10 feet every time you want to get a different tool. This is annoying. I change out a tool every 10 minutes. So, and then your unique ability. So the way I feel is that, I think I'm getting squeaky, with these three, judging how strong these are, how personal it is to you, and how mad it makes you, and how your unique ability is tied into it, these three together will basically decide how dedicated you are. So if it's something that's really making you mad, if it's something that's very personal, and also something like your unique ability is making a huge impact, it'll make you much more dedicated. So identifying barriers. So I won this business competition. First place wins $10,000 cash and a bunch of extra prizes. It was awesome. It was a great opportunity. I met this guy who had a product that very easily could follow in a similar path as the Grypmat. It's a product that does not compete, but it definitely has some headway. So what happened was he had an issue with the person that was putting on the competition. And he basically got such in a big argument with this person that when he got on stage, he had a sourpuss attitude and didn't pitch as well as he could have, and ended up losing the competition. So the thing is, if I were to ask him, hey, what's the barrier in this situation, he would instantly say, oh, the person that's setting up the event is, I can't handle, working with that kind of person. Where the real issue in this situation is his ego. Like he was in an argument and he couldn't take not being right. For me, dude, if it's $10,000 on the line, if it's $10, I'll let you be right. I don't care. More importantly, if it's something that's going to push my vision, push my invention forward, I will totally work with whoever I got to work with. If it's someone that I really don't like, I'll find a way to work with them. One thing that I think about is, have you guys ever heard of you miss 100% of the shots you don't take? You also miss 99% of the shots that you do with a bad attitude. So I used to live in Toledo, and when I first started Grypmat, I needed to get a prototype of the Grypmat. And I got a quote from a company that was here in town to make it for $15,000. They said that they were going to interview customers that potentially would buy it. They would do CAD designs, and then they would make it. And I was like, well, $15,000, I don't have $1,500. I can do the CAD designs because I'm a mechanical engineer. I've already interviewed literally 1,000 mechanics, so that's done. Can you guys make the prototype? And they wouldn't work with me or adjust on anything. So I ended up making the prototype in my basement for $60. I was actually making it, I made the mold in my dad's barn over Thanksgiving break when I was in college, and I actually remember my mom coming out to the barn like yelling at me because she's like, your grandparents are here and you have to go inside. I was like, I remember looking at her and saying, Mom, this is the only thing that matters. I ended up inside within like 15 minutes. I was like, all right, I'll let the paint dry on the mold and then I'll go inside. Mom powers. But anyway, I see a lot with startups or a lot of times with startups or just people in general that they feel that money is a big barrier, where in reality, like the barrier was not, in my situation, was not money, it was getting a prototype. It was the thing that was on the other side of money. So if you need marketing, like you don't, and you like and you're thinking, well, we need $10,000 for marketing. You don't need $10,000. You need that exposure. Maybe it's, well, I want to move out to LA, but I need $3,000 a month for rent. You don't need $3,000. You need to find a place to stay. So if that's sleeping on a couch, how far are you willing to go? Are you willing to share a room with your brother? Are you willing to sleep in your car? What is it? So that's what I see a lot with people, is that they don't fully get that picture. Something for Grypmat is we don't really have much of a marketing budget because we just can't afford it. So when we're at trade shows, we're doing things like putting flyers on top of the urinals in the bathroom, so while people are taking a leak, they're reading our stuff. I've gotten more attention over that than anything. We're doing things like airdropping a picture to people at the trade show to get them to come to the booth. It'll say something like, you're an airdrop winner, come to booth 10,005 to get your free Grypmat. A kill in the back, he will walk around with a giant flag on his back and gets a ton of attention. So we're constantly doing stuff like that. This is a this is a picture of me with a race team. What happened was, this is the day before the Indy 500. They have something called the Hot Pit Challenge, where this team just won. This slide is rationalizing your fear. So what happened was, I was watching this competition happen, and they pull up the car and they're taking pictures with the race team. What's happening is all the sponsors of the race team are getting pictures of their hat or whatever. This team just got a picture with a giant check that they won. It was like $50,000. About 10 feet behind me, you can't see it, but there's a really long concrete barrier that I was on the other side of it, and I had two sets of Grypmats. A set of Grypmat is a small, a medium, and a large. And I see this happening, and they're like, they'll give them the giant check, take a picture, and then they'll switch it out with a hat, and then they'll take a picture, and everyone's about to leave, and I notice they're about to leave, and I jump over the concrete barrier, and I run up to them, and I say, hold up, we're going to take one more picture, and I hand out the Grypmats to everyone on the team. Right now, the person that took the picture was some Grypmat members. We got Jack and Ray that was taking a picture. To the left and the right of Jack, there's like 25 people taking pictures of these guys. So I was like, we got one more picture to take. The thing is, we actually have a video of them holding up the Grypmats. They had it held up for like 2 seconds, like this, and they went down, and they're like, what is this? Because the people taking the pictures, they had no idea what the Grypmat was. The people that were holding up the Grypmats, they had no idea what it was. And we got the picture, and I took the Grypmats, and then we left. We got the picture. And we actually ended up getting an email from the team like, hey, we saw that we got a picture with you guys. We don't know why or what, but can we have like some of your product, I guess? We're like, yeah, sure, I guess you can. So the thing is, if you were to just before I jumped over the concrete barrier, if you were to pause that moment and, take a normal person's mindset and be like, okay, we're going to jump over this barrier and we're going to make everyone get a picture with our product. Even though the person that just got a picture with their hat, they've spent at least $100,000 with them, donated that, to do this. Are you in? Most people would be I see a lot of times most people get really irrational with their fear. People would think, dude, we're going to get kicked out of the Indy 500 for life if we do this. They're going to take us away in handcuffs. We're never going to be able to come back. This team's going to hate us. We're going to get a bad name for Grypmat. Where I see a lot of times when you're about to do something crazy like that, usually if you're just good at apologizing and be quick to apologizing, you'll get away with it. So another example of rationalizing with your fear is I had a friend, Dan. He came up to me and he's like, I want to start a company, but I'm really scared. And I was like, well, what are you afraid of? He's like, well, last year I just got married and we got a kid on the way. And I was like, okay, so what are you afraid of? He's like, starting your own company, you could go bankrupt, you could lose your house, you could, I got to support my family. So the thing is, in Dan's mind, he's thinking his family will be homeless. He's thinking his family is going to not eat. And I told him, I was like, real talk, Dan, In this country, you can't starve. It's not about, like, let's rationalize with your fear right now. Like, worst case scenario, you end up on food stamps. You go to the food pantry. You end up moving in with your in-laws. So the thing is, one, he's not rationalizing with his fear, and two, is also kind of going back to his ego, to the point where he's not willing to sell the house he just bought and moving into the basement of his in-laws. He's not willing to let people know, or he doesn't want people to know that he's in line at the food pantry getting a free handout. So that's where I see a lot of times people aren't fully rationalizing with their fears. So identifying your barriers. So we have your ego. I see that is typically a big one. It's sometimes a tough one for me to deal with. Money versus innovation, and then rationalizing with your fear. So eliminating barriers. So I feel like a really big barrier that people come across is perfection. They want everything to be perfect right out of the gate. And I feel that, I guess something that I always preach on is just to get a C+ right away. Because, for example, the Grypmat, I wanted to push out the product right away. Now, the thing is, I spent a ton of time trying to perfect that. And now that I know that there's like thousands of customers with the Grypmat, so the thing is, we had the Grypmat Original, and then we had 3 other products afterwards. The Grypmat Original, we had so many different iterations. The Grypmat Original is closest to our large, where what I know now is the most popular sizes are medium. So the thing is, when you're trying to get that perfect thing, oftentimes it's taking way extra time, and you're missing a lot of opportunity that if you would have got a C+ on something, you could have spit it out way faster. My cousin Sandy that I was talking about, she wanted to start a practice. She was studying as a therapy, and she wanted to do her own practice. And she said to me, she goes, I don't know if I should start doing my social media first or my website first. And I ended up talking to her like a month later, and I was like, hey, how'd it go? Like, did you get everything? Like, I was waiting for you to like invite me to like your Facebook page. I was like, did you get it going? And she goes, no. I was like, well, did you do your website? She's like, no, I didn't do that either. I was like, so you didn't do the website or the social media? And she's like, no, I didn't do either. And I was like, why? She's like, well, I just didn't know which one to start. This is a month later. I'm just like, either one of these tasks could be done in a day tops. You could probably do it in an hour if you really wanted to. But she was so worried about focusing or perfecting it that nothing got done. And I see a lot of times people are always wanting the stars to align to actually do something. And I also think sometimes that procrastination is masked with perfectionism, where they'd be like, well, if I had a little bit more followers on Instagram, then I probably would do my podcast. Like, just do your podcast if you want to do a podcast. Like, if I had 10,000 followers, then I probably would do it. But it's like, it wouldn't make any difference. I think keep that in mind of like, don't always be focusing on being perfect. I guess something I'm always trying to do is like, just get something out that works, because you don't know what perfect is. And that's also frustrating with the way that we're all raised in the school system, is we're trying to get that 100%, where the thing is, what's 100% at a trade show? You sell out on the last day? Well, what if you sell out on the first day? Is that better? So there's no such thing as perfect. Let's keep that in mind. So, Kevin loves this photo. So this is a picture of me at CES. CES, to go to attend the show, just to walk the floor, it's $300. I had a free pass because I'm slick like that. But as I was like leaving the show, I met Cindy, who is a World War II vet, and Cindy was like, he's like, hey, I don't have a pass. It's the last day. As I was walking out, he's like, are you leaving for good? And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to come back. I was like, do you want my pass? And so I had the honor of giving him my pass. Anyway, this barrier that I'm talking about is business versus personal. So the thing is, I see a lot with people, they want to like put everything in different buckets. Like, well, this is my work time, this is my time to relax, this is time with my family, this is time with my boyfriend or girlfriend, and they try to put these all in different compartments, where I'm very much about of just like blending them all together. If you're fully going to be dedicated to a startup or anything, if you're going to be fully dedicated to anything, whatever that entity is going to have to be in every single part of your life. So, you know, I go to the past 2 years, I've probably been to Vegas 15 times. My mom likes to go to Vegas. I'm not going to go to Vegas again with my family just for funsies. I've been there too many times. But the thing is that I'm there all the time, so now they can come with me. My mom likes to travel, so it fits that she can travel with me to these trade shows. So we're making it work together. Another thing is with blending your business versus your personal world is that I think it's crazy how normal people, when they're trying to keep these entities separate, where at work what they want to do is like, they don't want to have friends that, or basically they'll ask something big from their boss, but they've never spent any time into like reaching into their boss's personal life. You're going to ask your boss to have Friday off, but you've never even like considered getting them coffee or like talking to them about, you know, their daughter's dance recital or anything like that. So the thing is, for me, all of our distributors, I have a lot of friends that work at those companies because I've taken extra time to invest into their life. So when it's 4:30 on a Friday and I ask them, hey, can we get that paperwork pushed through? Yeah, I'll get it done. Because we're actually friends. Because when they were in town in Columbus, I picked them up from the airport. I went to B-dubs with them and their cousin, and I, you know, had a couple drinks with them, and I hung out with them. You know, the thing is, I had a friend who called me and he said, hey, you live in Columbus, right? Yeah. Is it cool if I were to like crash at your place? I said, yeah, like when, what day? He goes, tonight. And I was like, I mean, I was planning on getting home real late, but I guess I could do that. And then he goes, also, my girlfriend's with me, is that okay? And I was like, okay, yeah, I guess that's cool. Now the thing is, I did this because he's one of my best friends. If you go up to a stranger on the street and you say, hey dude, can I stay at your place? What? Actually, I got another person with me too. Is it cool if I stay at your place? They'd be like, no. It's the same thing in the business world. If you're going to ask something crazy in the business world, like, hey, I need to take a week off for vacation, even though it's like a busy time of the year, can we do that? Like, I don't even know anything about you. So I think it's very beneficial at work or any startup of just like going the next level of those relationships. One thing is, a lot of the companies that we work with, I'm Facebook friends with them. So it almost makes it even more easier to find, you know, when's their birthday, reach out to them, make an effort to be a true friend with them. All right, so I'm going to talk about one of the biggest barriers that I had for myself with Shark Tank. So before I talk about this, I'm going to tell you 2 funny facts about Shark Tank. One thing is, when Shark Tank comes to pick you up from the airport, they're in like one of those shady white vans that, and what's happening is they'll have like, it's like a printer paper where it'll be like, it'll just say Shark Tank, and it'll be the Shark Tank logo. It looks like an intern did it or something. And then they took like a Sharpie marker and just write whatever season you're in, like season 9. It's like at the front of the creepy white van, and then you're like, holy crap, I'm totally getting punked, isn't it? Like, I'm gonna get like a kidney taken out right now if I get in this van. Another funny fact with Shark Tank is after you're done pitching, no matter how bad or good you do, they make you like go into your trailer, which it's not cool. Like when you think of the movies, like, oh, you got a trailer. This trailer was like made in like the 70s. So, and they haven't updated anything since. It's kind of cool, you get a trailer, I guess. But when you're they make you go to your trailer right away, and then they have a psychiatrist come out, and they'll, like, no matter how good or bad you did, they'll be like, how do you feel? And I was like, dude, I thought I felt good. Like, it was like, me, I had a combo deal with Lori Greiner, Mark Cuban, and Richard Branson. I was like, I thought it was a good deal, but now I don't know. Like, why are you asking me like this? It's just kind of like standard protocol that they have. I've heard some horror stories of people going crazy. I guess a guy was like slamming his head against the wall because he like missed a line or something. He ended up getting a deal, but I don't know. It's a lot of pressure, but anyway. So what was happening when I was going into Shark Tank, I just did a Kickstarter, successful Kickstarter. Total pre-orders on Kickstarter was $170,000. And I just realized we haven't shipped everything, and I'm about $1,000 in the negative. I'm like, shit, okay, that is really not good. The guy that I was working with, the Kickstarter, he got really drunk at a business event and blew up on me, and he had to go. So the thing is, he had a lot of experience with Kickstarter, and he was going to handle all of the fulfillment. So now this is a massive thing on my plate that I'm trying to coordinate while also getting everything ready for Shark Tank. And then what happened was the Grypmats finally came, and they had excess mold release on them, which means the Grypmats did not grip. They were like basically had a little slime on them. So I had 10,000 Grypmats that I had to unbox, clean, rebox, and then ship. So I'm freaking out right now because we're in the red on this massive Kickstarter that was, media-wise, was a big success. But I feel like, holy crap, we're like losing money on this thing. And I'm about to go fly to LA for Shark Tank. So the thing is, I've been wanting to be on Shark Tank for like 3 years now. I've been thinking of this like every single day of me growing towards, this time, growing Grypmat. I'm constantly thinking like, yeah, this would be perfect for Shark Tank. So now that I get there, I actually remember when I'm waiting in line to get into the hotel to get my key, and I was about to like break down because I was so stressed out. I walked into the gym and turned around the corner, and I just like started crying in the corner of the gym. What happened was I actually did a practice pitch for Shark Tank. So what happens is you do a practice pitch. It's not in front of the sharks. It's just in front of the cast. And actually, yeah. So we had the jet on with me during the practice pitch, and I ended up bombing the practice pitch really, really bad. So bad that I like froze and I forgot my lines, and then my producer like yelled out the next line to get me to keep going. And I remember when I was done, the director was like way in the back. He's making a beeline towards me, and I said, "Hey, can we do one more?" And he goes, "No, we don't have time." And then he walks right by me, and then he just starts taking a selfie with the jet. Because they've never had a jet on stage, and they're just super. Then everyone just got up out of their seats and just started taking pictures with the jet because they just never had that on stage. So what ended up happening is the next day, one of our guys was with me, Ray. He used to work for ESPN, and he used to work on the fishing part of ESPN, and he's like, "Dude, I've made fishermen look exciting. Like, you'll do just fine." So the entire day we just practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced, and it was kind of one of those things, you thinking about the worst case scenario, and then you're like, well, shit, what's the best case scenario that could happen right now? And so yeah, I just swung for the fences, and yeah. So basically, what I was struggling with, I was actually texting one of my friends, Jay Klaus, about all the issues I was having. And I was having that fear of failure, fear of being exposed, really, fearing that like they're going to find out that I'm a fraud, dude. I've messed up this Kickstarter, and the last one was fear of rejection, which was my barrier was basically having imposter syndrome. So yeah, one thing that I forgot to say that I always think about at like trade shows or me presenting is that I always tell myself is no opportunity will be lost due to my effort. So I feel a lot of times like with a lot of opportunity would have been lost due to my emotion. If I would have walked in like scared or not confident, a lot of opportunity could be lost simply because I'm not acting confident. I was very nervous, but the thing is, no one knows if you're nervous until you're doing like something crazy, like shaking on stage or stuttering or throwing up. If I throw up in front of the Sharks, they'll be like, all right, this guy's too far. So yeah, with eliminating barriers, perfection does not always equal winning. So a lot of times, have you ever heard of early bird gets the worm? Does that early bird have the perfect hair? No, it doesn't matter. The early bird is whoever got there first, really. Together is better with blending your personal life and your business life. And always consider what is the best case scenario when you're in a tough situation. So yeah, 3 sections. We're finding your way. Section 2 is identifying barriers, and the last one is eliminating barriers. And then one thing that I always tell myself when I'm in a tough situation is when I think I can't, I think of the ones who can, and I realize that they're no different than me. So, time for Q&A. What's up?
How'd you get the jet?
I did some things I'm not proud of, but we got the jet. So something that happens in LA, in movie world, they'll have what's called prop houses. So there'll be like themed prop houses. So the prop house that we found was themed with aviation. So like if you're going to do a movie inside of a cockpit of an airplane, like that would be the place to go to. Yeah, so you rent it. So the jet was, anything on stage at Shark Tank is your responsibility. So I had to pay to rent that. So it was like $1,000 a day. But the thing is, I convinced them to give me 3 days for the cost of one because it was like Father's Day. So just the way it was, I was like, hey, look, you can deliver it Monday morning at 6 a.m. or you can drop it off Friday, Monday morning on Father's Day or Friday right now. And it worked out.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a quick question before. By the way, if you have a question, raise your hand. I'll come over to the microphone. You're not allowed to talk unless you have the microphone. But one question that I had for you was, you talked a lot about ego. And I think that's sometimes really hard when you're working by yourself to like check yourself with your fears. Also, this is an uncomfortable distance. This does not feel Oprah-like. But I'm wondering, like, what do you do when you work on a team? Like, how do you get checked, or who do you check, or how do you check each other? Since a lot of that stuff about overcoming barriers is having more eyes and ears on what you're working and how you're working on it.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting because like the past year or so, I've actually been like working with a team. Lucas is around here somewhere. Lucas has been around for quite a while, almost 2 years now. And then we got 3 people from VFA. Actually, what I see what Lucas will do is Lucas will just like straight up ask me. It would be a situation like, let's say that guy on stage, be like, he would probably just say something like, is the issue, is the issue that you can't let this guy be right, or is the issue that, how would he word that? So the situation was having an argument with that guy on stage, or the guy that was leading the event, where it was more about his ego. He couldn't let other people be right. Or I think I've seen Lucas just straight up ask the question, is the problem the relationship that you have with this person, or is it letting them be right? It is tough working with a group. I think when you just flat out ask the question, it helps. Because a lot of times you don't know if it's your ego, and it's good to have someone to check you in that situation.
Another thing I wonder is you told a lot of interesting stories about like you overcoming an unusual barrier or being in a strange situation and finding yourself with this like really unusual outcome. I guess I'm wondering about some of the more of the grist. Like, when did you feel most like quitting? And maybe it wasn't necessarily like a great outcome, but like when did you feel most like, I can't do this, like I'm at my limit?
Yeah, the worst time was, so the show that I was talking about, Oshkosh, where I sold 600 Grypmats. The year before, I did this like little accelerator that was part of Oshkosh. And what happened was I was going for a grant that was $50,000. And in order to get this grant, what was happening is that there was other people that were also going for the grant, and they were in revenue. And the people that were like the gatekeepers of the grant money said that was a huge benchmark for them, was to have revenue. And so they said, basically, if you want to be competitive, you have to be in revenue. And I was like, well, I'll be at this trade show. I'll just take pre-orders. And at this point, I said before, I've personally interviewed over 1,000 mechanics and had these like amazing reviews of people saying, yeah, we would totally buy this. So I got a free booth at the show, and I'm like, let's take some pre-orders. And at the time, I had this business partner that he was like, yeah, we're gonna have a team of people come to the show, and it's gonna be all these people, me and my wife. And just before the show, he was like, yeah, it's actually just gonna be like me and my wife. You know, the other people can't make it. And he's like, well, you know, my wife can't make it. And then I was like, actually, like the day before, he's like, yeah, I won't be able to make it either. So this super long show. I'm there by myself every single day. What happened was, trying to take pre-orders, right? They actually had a ribbon cutting for where my booth was, because it was in the innovation hall. The previous CEO of Cessna cut the ribbon, and he walks straight to my booth, and he goes, I got a plane, and I got a bunch of friends with planes. I'll buy 5 right now. And I was like, dude, this is gonna be easy. This is great. And then the entire day, I didn't sell any. So it was like 9 hours of talking to people. It was like, yeah, we're taking pre-orders. And they're like, yeah, let me know when you actually make it. I don't think I want to do pre-orders. And so what was happening is at night, so after the show, it ended at like 5 or 6 o'clock, I would go to like these after parties with the accelerator that I was a part of. And I wouldn't get done till like 9 or 10 o'clock at night. And then I'd have to go write that grant. And then in that grant, I'm constantly sitting there writing. The show went fantastic. We sold thousands of dollars. And I'm like, dude, I hope we get $1,000 in sales with this. And it was just like very exhausting, like physically, and like depressing of like how bad it was going. Because each day I would sell like 1 or maybe like 3. So you're talking for 8 hours and you make $50. And you're like, this is not working at all. And I actually called Jay Klaus about that, and I told him, I was like, I'm gonna quit everything. I was like, I got a different idea that I'm gonna end up doing. And I remember what kept me going was actually, I simply got that grant. I was like, the thing was, to get that grant, it was $50,000, but you had to raise $50,000 to match it to that $50,000. So I was like, well, now I got to go find another $50,000, and I ended up doing it. But yeah, I was like, it's worth a try, trying to get it into manufacturing now that I have this grant money.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, do people in the audience have questions? I noticed one hand up. I'm going to walk around with the microphone. If you could just state your name clearly in the microphone, speak as confidently and clearly as I have been.
I hate public speaking so much. Hi, this is going to be like a really personal question, so if you don't feel like answering, just tell me. You also cried earlier, so you'll be all right. From my perspective, you crushed it.
Oh, thank you.
You know, your story, also your presentation. But I mean, like your career, you crushed it. And I'm sure it was really hard at times, but like, I'm sure whatever you had to sacrifice to get there, like you would probably say in retrospect, it's worth it. My question is, for somebody who kicked that much ass, like what's the one thing that you're just really, really ashamed of or embarrassed of? Like, God, I can't believe I did that. And I know I did well. I know it worked out in the end, but like, crap, I shouldn't have done that. Or I should have done that and I didn't.
Something that I'm really ashamed of, That's a good question. I'm ashamed of a lot of stuff. I guess someone who is new, something that I like that helps keep my mind moving is, so this is kind of irrelevant to what you're saying. Maybe this will help. I don't know. I remember when I was a freshman in high school, I was in track, and we had this one kid who was a beast at running, and I remember seeing this guy, like it was always easy for him. I felt like it was easy for him, and I remember seeing this. It was down to like we were really close in points, and this was the last relay that was going to decide who wins. And we were getting smoked. Like this guy is like 20 yards ahead of us. And the really fast runner, he gets the baton and he just chases this guy down and he ends up beating him. And I remember talking to him afterwards, and I was like, how did you do that? And he was talking, he was like, I just took off sprinting as fast as I could. And honestly, the last 200 yards, the last half of the lap, I was dead. I gave everything I possibly could. And I guess the way that I think about it, I think when someone is like really good at doing something, you have like this concept that they are like different. Like Steve Jobs doesn't wake up Steve Jobs. Elon Musk didn't wake up Elon Musk and he just has everything. Elon Musk worked really hard every single day and did things that was very difficult every single day to get where he was. So that's why I would always say when I think I can't, I think of the ones who can and realize that they're no different than me. So like Elon Musk, there's plenty of times that he thinks that he can't, but he still stays in through it. That doesn't answer your question at all, but something that I am kind of, I want to say I'm ashamed, but something that I wish I would have done better is I wish I would have been better at like gathering people's contact information and like emails and like had like a system of doing that. If it's something as simple as MailChimp and like I've been working on this for 5 years, and like the past year I'm just now starting to do like email lists and stuff. So that's something that I should have been doing since day one. Yeah.
Cool, thank you. I think we have a question over here.
Yeah.
My question is, how much have you been involved with Shark Tank since you accepted the deal? Have you, it's mostly, I know they're busy doing other things, but how have they mentored you since, the deal and growing your business?
Yeah, so since I've got 3, it's kind of like round robin. I'm in contact with one of them or their team almost every day. It's kind of weird today, like I was on the Stairmaster emailing Lori's husband. So it is kind of cool. Mostly I try to focus on like their team, because if I got like a random question about Amazon exclusives, I want to ask their team. Like I don't need to ask Mark Cuban about a shipping question with Amazon. But yeah, it's Richard Branson and I actually had the same birthday, which is kind of cool, but at the same time, like we also had the same birthday as Nelson Mandela, who like Richard was like obsessed with Nelson Mandela. So whenever it's our birthday, I'm like trying to hang out with him, but he's always like random part of Africa, like speaking at a Nelson Mandela event. So yeah, Mark is like ungodly responsive. Like last time I emailed him, I'm not kidding you, he replied in 3 minutes. He replied faster than I realized how fast he replied. It took me like 10 minutes. I was like, holy shit, he replied 7 minutes ago. Yeah, I used to think it was a bot or if it was like some intern or something, because sometimes he'll email back like, yeah, good job. And I'm like, that could have been anybody. But then sometimes he'll email back like in detail, and I'm like, okay. I've seen Mark twice in person afterwards, and I'll try to like ask a question referring to our emails to see if it's like really him, and he's always like on point with it. I'm like, shit, I don't know how he's doing this. Yeah. Next question.
Yep. We have one over here.
Yes, my name's Jeff, and I wanted to say that your presentation is awesome.
Thanks.
And this is how it works. Just FYI. My name's Jeff. I like your presentation. Your journey's been amazing. And there are a couple points that you made through your presentation and your journey that I know I could definitely use some input on. So I volunteer for the American Heart Association. A lot of time I do coaching for people specifically with fear. And I've also read a lot of Brene Brown, and Alex Honnold is a rock climber, world famous, badass guy. But he teaches people about being in a situation where death is staring you in the face, that kind of fear, not just low-level anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure a lot of us are in the technology industry, and we've been in situations where we've transected with cultures that were very slow to change or very change averse. And in our lifetimes, this goes back to a flight I took back home from San Francisco, and I sat with the CEO of DaVita. It's a dialysis company. Best advice I ever got was from him. He said to transplant yourself every 3 to 7 years. But the trick is, how do you identify your fears, and then how do you actually begin to approach and deal with those?
Yeah. I feel like, so I guess kind of going back to the story with my cousin with the rattlesnake. I mean, what was the fear with the rattlesnake? He gets bitten and dies. That ended up happening. So I guess for me, I'm just kind of constantly asking the question, like, what's the worst case scenario? I mean, what's the worst case scenario if I come up here and speak in front of you guys and I flop? Am I going to die? The worst case scenario to me in any situation is you die. But the thing is, like, a lot of times that's not going to happen, you know? Like, there's no way that can happen. Like, you go to a trade show, what's the worst case scenario? Like, you are deprived from sleep. Like, I was talking to one of my military friends about it, and he was like, you know, in the business world, there's nothing that's going to kill you. So, like, you'll be okay. And I feel like a lot of times people they don't remember that, where they're like, oh, I'm so tired, I can't go to the trade show, or I can't work anymore. It's like, you're not gonna die. Just like, okay, you haven't eaten in like 2 days, like, relax, like, you'll live. It's not fun, but you'll live. So I think also, like, with my fears is, I think with the kind of like getting out of your comfort zone is really important. And I feel like, I was talking to Lucas in the car about this, I feel like there's like 3 ways of getting out of your comfort zone. There's a negative way, there's like a micro way, and then there's like a really big way. So the negative way is like, you might be out of your comfort zone if they're like doing lines of cocaine in the bathroom. Like, that's weird. That's like a negative way. You don't want to put yourself in that situation. Now, you might be out of your comfort zone if, I don't know, you wear a shark onesie to an event. Or maybe you're like wearing something. What did I do the other day? I'm not going to say what I did the other day. It was definitely weird. Or like a really big one would be maybe it is speaking or going for a big job that you're, you know, really intimidated by. So I think when you like make those of like the smaller positive getting out of your comfort zone, and then the larger one, I think when you practice that a lot, it's not getting, there's a point where it's not getting out of your comfort zone, it's just growing your comfort zone. That's the important part. So you're constantly okay with that feeling of, you know, I mean, the thing is, I say the shark onesie. I was actually at an event with Alex, and I just went to the event in a shark onesie because I wanted to. Now, the thing is, when I walked into that event, I was actually pretty nervous because of worrying about what other people would think about me. But the thing is, I do that every once in a while because it gets me ready for other events. So I was just in Indianapolis yesterday, and I wanted to go get more pictures with other race cars. And we just walked in and we're like, hey, we're huge fans of this race team. Can we get pictures? We work with a tool company that you guys work with. Can we get pictures with the car? And what happened was we went to 3 of them. One said no, and then the other 2 also said no. But we were like, hey, can we just see the car? And then once they showed us the car, and then we're next to it, and we're talking to their mechanics, and then they're like, yeah, we totally could use this. And then they're like, all right, you can get pictures. So the thing is, it was that fear of like kind of rejection of like, it's also the thought of like, it most likely won't work. It most likely won't work, but it did work, and we got this footage that we're going to end up using in a promo video. So yeah, in one of the videos, we had the race car driver do like a shout out for the video and of like telling other distributors to buy the Grypmat and stuff. So yeah, I guess that's kind of how in my free time I'll like practice fear, practice like getting out of my comfort zone. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but thanks.
All right, if we could have a round of applause again for Tom.